one day we're actually going to look through like all the footage and all this and be like, dang, all the candid shots and all the candid conversations that are before.
But you know what's interesting? As you fix your mic and we're getting ready for the podcast and making sure everything's set up correctly and all that, it's not glamorous work per se. And would you say it's any less important because it's not glamorous? No. It's still very important. It might even be more important than us saying what we say on this podcast, because without setting shit up the correct way, we wouldn't be able to do the podcast in an efficient way. So when you're thinking about the work that needs to get done, it's rarely sexy.
It's an Infinity.
No, I think it was a Nissan. Yeah, it was a Nissan. Hey, all y'all little Nissan drivers out there, you know, that tuned your shit up.
Shout out to you, dog.
Yeah, shout out y'all for, you know, blowing up our audio on the podcast. But again, even this, an example of that, a candid, you know, disturbance in audio because of a Nissan driving by. It's shit that you have to deal with on a day-to-day and whatever it is that you're trying to do that may not be sexy, but you have to do the work regardless. You have to put in the reps regardless. We couldn't just stop the podcast and say, okay, well, let's redo that. No, this is the work. This is what it is. And these are things that we have to deal with. Is it glamorous? Is it sexy? Is it nice all the time? No. So you have to get past that point of thinking that it's like that. And I think in today's society, that is a big problem that we have, is that we think things are supposed to be cool. We think things are supposed to be nice and, you know, aesthetic all the time. But really in the early stages, it's not like that at all. It's pain, suffering, hard work, toil. So, Jose, what do you have to say about marble? I see this here. I'm very interested in what you have to say about that. Sips coffee dramatically.
Shout out to Stormzy. Angel in the Marble.
Gotcha. Yeah, shout out to Stormzy.
That's where this is inspired from. What you were just saying right now is the reason why I put this bullet point down. You talked about how the start is almost never sexy. It's almost never pretty. It's almost never good looking. Marble is ugly. It's just a slab of stone. It has potential. But an artist's job is to bring out the beauty in the marble. Michelangelo would see the beauty in the marble. Da Vinci would see the beauty in the marble. Simple things like that. That is your life. You are keen to a unchiseled figurine when you're born. Your character development path, your journey that you walk, is something that shapes the beauty that is you, whether it be Austin, Manolo, or anybody in our viewership. Every single step that you take along the way is going to chisel that beautiful sculpture that represents your life. But I will tell you, the first couple hits of that mallet and chisel, not going to look good. Not going to look good at all. If you want a perfect example, please scroll back all the way to our first podcast.
Yeah.
It's not great.
Right.
And even now, we're going to look back on this podcast when we reach episode 100 and say, that wasn't that good of a podcast.
We could have changed this. We could have did this. We could have done this. That wasn't set up correctly. The layer was too much. Just all types of shit like that.
So can you actually extrapolate on that, on looking back at things that you thought was great, or even then knowing that something's not actually as good while you're doing it and still taking the steps?
And that's funny because to a certain degree, I would say that we were kind of deluding ourselves in a good way. And when I say this, I'm saying early on, let's go all the way back to the Guinness the Guinness shoot, flashing lights. You know what I'm saying? Y'all don't know about that.
That was a nightmare.
Yeah, y'all don't know about that, but we know about that. And in the moment, it was something like, oh shit, man, we're on to something here, boy. Did we think that we were like the next fucking commercial directors? No, not necessarily. But we know that from where we started, that was a big difference. We got little lights and shit like that. We got a backdrop. We did some, creative shit where we were waving the light to kind of make a strobe effect and whatnot. It was cool.
It was a lot of fun too, mind you.
Yeah.
We thought it was great.
To us, it was cool. But to everybody else, it may not have came off that way. However, the thing about looking back on that was it the best thing in hindsight? Maybe not, but it's something that needed to happen so we could progress forward to the next step. That taught us how to optimize. And little things like that teach us how to optimize, which I feel like people take for granted because they're like, okay, if it's not cool, if it doesn't get a lot of traction right away, I failed. No, not necessarily. In that experience, it taught us, okay, we were doing something this way. How can we improve it? We were doing things without the appropriate lighting, or we didn't know how to use the camera effectively yet. We didn't have a good enough stand yet. We had a dumbass fucking gimbal that didn't know how to work
and we
itself.
We call him
Bruto. You know what I'm saying? So we had all these things that we tried to incorporate into a new kind of photo shoot or whatnot to try to make what we were doing better. And it taught us how to continuously strive to get better. So even in the process of today, next week, we might look at this podcast and say, hey, look, this wasn't up to par, or we could have done this better, or we got to change how the sound of our voices in the mics, the audio.
We have to raise the mics or else we're
we're hunched over, stuff like that. Things of that nature are very, what's the word? Important, but I'll find another word. But they're very crucial to
integral, perhaps.
Yeah, sure. They're very integral to producing a good quality podcast, but keeping that kind of keen sense of how can I get better every single podcast is really the thing that's going to take your podcast or whatever you're doing to the next level, because you're always looking at that thing and how to get better. Whether people think it's cool or not, whether people fuck with it or not, you're the one going and saying, hey, look, how can I get better? This is how I can get better, and continuously doing so and seeing what the people are saying about it, maybe taking some of that feedback, maybe not taking some of that feedback, and continuously optimizing and trying to make your thing better. So, Jose,
I want to talk a little bit about something that we experienced in the past, and I want to show you about how it's something that's not sexy.
I think I know exactly what you're talking about. Go ahead.
These are things that not everybody gets to see. So, Austin and I, one of our businesses is a marketing agency. And the way it started out is we were professional videographers and photographers. We did everything from local ma and pa shops, including cafes and little brands. Shout out to Oatmeal Company and Co. Yeah. Darien, Washington, we love you if you are watching.
Brought me to tears that day, man. That was crazy.
It's lovely. That was actually our second podcast, I think. We talked about her.
Yeah.
So we got to go visit her at the farmer's market this Saturday.
Yeah.
After our steaks.
Oh, yeah. Sips coffee dramatically.
So, including that, we did real estate photography and videography, luxury real estate photography and videography, along with many other things. We also operated as nightclub and bar promoters within that marketing agency. Now, there's a very particular bar called Higbee's, and we had shot for a couple bars and nightclubs, photography, videography, help them do promotion, things like that. And Higbee's was the last of the lot while we were still doing this type of marketing. we pulled up best equipment that we have had, best experience that we've have had, and we showed out. We balled out by all objective standards. Now, everybody who saw what we produced loved it. The owners loved it. The workers loved it. Our buddies loved it. And obviously, the public loved it. But what you don't see is all of the failed attempts that we had leading up. Shooting with the wrong white balance. Forgetting to shoot at all. Pictures that come out blue instead of colorful. All kinds of problems, right? Navigating through the crowd, having the awkward conversations while you're there, awkwardly filming and taking photos from semi-belligerently drunk individuals, dealing with the public eye. Those things are unglamorous. Those aren't cool kid activities. The cool kids are on the other side of the lens. Those are the cool kids. Those are the people that look good. But from this story, what I want you to understand is the reason those cool kids go to that place is because of the cool kids behind the cameras that are getting them to come to this place.
Right. And that's such a great thing that you pointed out there. So I want to kind of expound on that from my perspective, right? So Jose gave a story, and we have a lot of stories on this particular topic because we encounter this all the time. So I find it very interesting right now that, in my opinion, and this is not universal, this doesn't apply to every single person who does this, but I will say that if you really want to know how someone feels about you and what you're doing, and if they really give a fuck, then pay attention to how they treat you and your product or your business whenever you start one. Start a business, start a product or whatever, and pay attention to people. I find that very interesting. It's like a pastime of mine. I like to do that a lot because you'll see what people think of you by how they talk about this thing that you're working on or how they promote it or the lack thereof. So, for instance, there's this one particular recent scenario where I know a good amount of people that reposted something of someone that I know and am very close with, my brother. And this is nothing to him, but to everybody else that will post his content and what he's doing as opposed to mine and what I'm doing. Now, from a objective standpoint, I'll step back and, not talk from just my perspective. I realize that what we're talking about isn't glamorous. It's not cool. It's not in per se. However, I do believe that what we talk about can actually really help people and help them change their lives. But most people aren't focused on that. It's not cool. It doesn't make them laugh. It doesn't make them, want to go turn up and then go drink and go smoke and shit like that. No, it's basically saying, hey, look, we're holding up a mirror to you and we're telling you, hey, we're living a life like this. We have success like this. This is why we have this view and you're not doing what you're supposed to do. It's a tough pill to swallow. Now, would people be so willing to repost that? I understand, maybe not. But I get that it's not cool. But here's the thing. The hard work and all the reps that you put in, especially with things that are like this, where it's more helpful and it's not as, entertainment per se, it's not going to be cool for most people until it is. And when I say that, you can look at someone like a Chris Williamson. We bring him up all the time. He said that over the last I believe 3 or so months at the time that he had his at the time he put the podcast, that particular episode out. So let's just say 3. Okay, you said it was 8. So let's just say 8 months, right? And he's been doing his podcast for multiple years. And he said in those last 8 months, that has amounted to 80% of his viewership and subscriber count. 80% over 3 years. So in the span of 3 years, that's like it going like this, slight increase, and then at that 8-month mark, going like that. So you have a good amount of people, just like we have our subscribers now that have been here for a good amount of time, and shout out y'all, that will be there for the start when it wasn't necessarily cool, right? But then whenever it becomes trendy, whenever we hit the right trend and it becomes trendy and cool, then people will jump on the bandwagon and deem it cool. And then they want to say, hey, look, I watched Austin Jose. I watched the AM Club podcast.
I believed in y'all and I supported y'all the whole way there.
Right. But again, you can see how much someone really focused you and how much someone really supports you by how they do things and how they talk about your business and how they promote it or the lack thereof. Again, so when you're doing the work, the hard work of starting a business or starting a company or starting something that you're trying to work on, trying to get in shape or things like that, it's not going to be cool at first, because at first you're not going to come out with a six pack off rip. No, it's going to take you a long time. And people aren't going to fuck with you and say, hey, look, man, your body is looking real nice, probably until you get that 6-pack. And maybe some time after that, shortly after that. So it's something that you're going to have to keep in mind that for a long time, you might be doing something and it may not be seen as the cool thing to do. Mm-hmm. But you have to really just say, fuck that, and continue to do it until people catch on. And when I said the little story that I was talking about of the reference that just happened, when I'm talking about that, something just happened in our headphones. But when I talk about that, it's not a discredit to them. I understand how business works. I understand how people work. So I get that you wouldn't want to support and push our stuff out like that. I get that. I'm mature. But I am saying this to say to those who are working on things and those who are trying things and those who are in the early stages of things, if it's not getting the support and acclaim that you would want from people right now, that's cool. Keep putting in the work. We see you. We understand you. We have been in your shoes and are currently in your shoes in particular facets of certain businesses that we're in. But you have to continue to do the work, whether it's seen as cool or not. And then one day, just like Chris Williamson, it'll get to a point to where everybody's saying, hey, you're that guy that's doing that cool shit. You just popped off recently. Wow, you really blew up out of nowhere. Little do they know, you've been doing this for years. We've been podcasting for a year or so at this point. Almost 100 episodes. So whenever we blow up and people are like, wow, you guys came out of nowhere. No, we didn't come out of nowhere. We've been doing it before you thought it was cool, before it was deemed as cool, before it was looked at as, what are these guys doing? That looks kind of corny.
You weren't watching us before this.
Right. You weren't.
It was the same. It was literally the same.
The same exact shit. We're talking about similar shit. We're the same exact people. We just increased our
perceived
value.
And, you know, this makes me think of a tweet from Alex Hormozy.
What's that tweet?
If you feel like you're behind where you should be by now, if you feel like you're losing, if you're not sure it's going to work, there's nothing wrong with you. Welcome to entrepreneurship. You went on a nice riff that I wholeheartedly support. No. The last part. I'm talking about the last part that I entirely support, which was actually intended to motivate our viewership as opposed to discussing what we're going through. You're pushing for them to continue and pursue, and you're letting them know that they're not alone.
Right.
And the thing about this path, not just entrepreneurship, but anything that you want to do, anytime that you're doing something that's outstanding, different, or non-conventional, you will always be an outcast. And it's a feeling that you cannot describe, you can only experience. It's a mile-wide ocean that's an inch deep, right? It's a huge black hole, bottomless pit. You have all kinds of emotions, you have all kinds of feeling, you have all kinds of uncertainty. You will make a decision and not know if it was the right decision for years to come. You may never know if it was the right decision. You might always look at the other decisions. You will have an incredibly difficult time. And now, being in the public eye makes it even harder. You start worrying about other people's opinions. You start seeing other people click up and support other people and not support you. And you start asking yourself why. But it doesn't matter because they're not the ones putting in the work and they're not the ones here right now. And they weren't the ones there when we were starving and working, sick, tired, cold, all the above. So their opinions didn't matter then, doesn't matter now.
Exactly.
And that's for y'all to take with you because in reality, people are always going to have something to say. But at the end of the day, they're at the clubs. Why? Because they cannot even tolerate to be with themselves. They have to drown themselves in alcohol, substances, noise, excitement, dopamine, adrenaline, because they can't sit down and say, hey, I want to do something significant with my life. Not, I want to be a programmer. No, I want to do something meaningful. I want to have my parents look at me and be proud that they had me as their child. Or I want to look in the mirror and be proud of the body that I have. I want to have a wife that loves and reveres me. Or I want to have a happy dog. Could be many things. And do you really, really think that if somebody shares or reposts your shit, that that is going to directly correlate with your degree of success? Fuck no. You know how many people supported us in our journey? I could count them on one hand. One. They're not here. They don't pay our rent. They don't cook our meals. They don't work out for us. They don't even go to our gym consistently. That's not even personal. I'm not even upset.
Right.
I'm just speaking the truth.
The facts.
And let me give you a perfect example of what Austin and I just did before this podcast. We both have a cold. Austin's is worse than mine because I had a cold 2 weeks ago that nearly killed me. Literally. Well, I almost killed myself, but it's kind of my fault.
Not literally.
Yeah, metaphorically.
Yeah, come on now.
And Austin, we were planning the next podcast cap topic after this one. And we're sitting there and we're eating Quest protein chips, H-E-B tortilla chips, protein bars, rosquillas and viejitas, oranges. I'm drinking coffee. He's drinking hot chocolate. So we're just sitting here for an hour, sprawled out, trying to, recover energy. We're texting our brokers in Costa Rica. We're texting we're communicating with some of our employees overseas. We're doing like 4 or 5 things all at once, but we're just sat in our corner penthouse doing this. It's not cool until it is. This was not cool when we did the exact same thing in a grungy ass apartment with no food, no AC, and nothing. It wasn't cool. It wasn't cool.
It wasn't cool.
Now, since we're here, it's cool.
It's cool.
You see what I'm saying? It's not cool, like Austin says, until it is. We did the same thing that we always have and that we always will, irrespective of the bullshit circumstances that we find ourselves in or in the future. That does not determine what we will do. Circumstances do not determine responsibility.
And I love that you said that, bro. That was a bar. And you know what? I'm going to reference a West Side Gun song line. He didn't say it, but it was a quote in the song. And this is something that always stuck out to me, and I really like this. It was a guy at the end of the song, and he was talking about how people don't know what's cool because they think that they're cool. You know what I'm saying? And he was like, and I'm quoting him. He said, 5 niggas get in the room just to be one person. So when he said that, that means that a lot of people, when it comes to being themselves, they rather conform to the social norm. They rather conform to what's to what's cool at that particular moment. So we have all met a group of people that got together and thought damn near identically. And if you said anything outside of what they thought was cool or what they thought was fashionable, you're a weirdo. You're lame or something like that. I've experienced that. And when it comes to being on this journey of entrepreneurship in business, that's going to be how shit is. Because really, you're going against the whole entire millions and billions of people that are saying, hey, look, that's fine and all what you're doing over there, but you're really working and I'm not seeing any profit yet. I'm not really seeing you blow up on YouTube or anything like that yet. You know what? I'm going to go over here and hang out with these people. So you're in a group of one by yourself while everybody else is in a group of millions and billions, and they're all trying to be and act and like the same shit. So you going against that is way harder in itself. But again, that makes it so much more cool and makes you so much more rare in the long term when you actually accomplish that thing that nobody believed in and now everybody's believing in.
And you know what's fucking hilarious about that?
Ooh. What's hilarious?
The person who's succeeded will look at you and say, you're succeeding because you're failing. The person who looks at you and says you're failing has no fucking clue what they're talking about.
Damn right.
They say, oh, you have no revenue. You have no profit. What do you know? And you look at them and you go, excuse me, do you own a business? Do you have employees? Or do you work at McDonald's?
Clip that shit up. Clip what we're about to say up, because every single person that I really take, lessons from and advice from, especially when it comes to this, they have made $1 million. They have very successful businesses. They do great things in the world. They're very philanthropic. All that type of stuff that they have going on. They succeeded. They've gotten to the place to where I want to get. But there's other people out there that want to tell me or tell us that we're not doing shit.
Oh yeah, you should do this too. Or why don't you go into this market? Or hey, this doesn't look like it's working. How many times have you pivoted within that business?
Right.
Doesn't sound like it's succeeding.
So I'm sorry to say, but I'm not. Actually, I'm not sorry. Why the fuck would we listen to you or to someone that hasn't done the things that we have done? If you haven't walked in our shoes and taken on the long journey of entrepreneurship seriously for more than a fucking month, because most people would probably quit after that. If you haven't done that, then what you're telling me is just fodder. It's going in one ear and out the other, because you don't really know what the fuck you're talking about. You don't really know what this area in life and what this, terrain is like, because you haven't really immersed yourself in it. So the only people that I will really take advice from and really take, heedings from is people who have done this shit before and who have succeeded. If you're out here working in corporate America, making less than what I do in corporate America at that, and you're telling me about, oh, you're working too hard, you don't need to do all that. I don't really like the way that you're doing that. Whatever. Who the fuck are you to tell us what the fuck we're doing when you don't know what we're doing? Literally, you don't know.
Austin, you're lame, but I make less money than you working in corporate America, and I don't do anything else on the side. But you're lame,
right? Because I don't go out and party and do all the extra shit, right? Okay, gotcha.
That's hypocrisy at the highest level. Because at the end of the day, when you go out, you're going to be coming to our place.
Exactly, and.
Imagine,
I don't want to bring that up.
Imagine paying us after you roast us, and then looking like a dumbass stood outside because you paid a cover fee and you can't get in because we said no. Kick them out.
Man, this is a very I love this topic because again, we have chips on our shoulders, so we're willing to say shit like this and put in the work to where we know that we're going to be proven right. It's just a matter of time.
We've earned the right to talk shit, and we're talking shit so that we'll earn the right more.
And exactly, and you know why we're able to do that? It's something Alex Hormozy said. He said, "You're a fraud when you get up to teach the class and never done it." We've done it. So the way that we talk and the bravado that we have and maybe the slight arrogance that you might say that we have comes through a little bit. I'm sorry, but we're able to have that because we have done it. We continue to do it on a day-to-day basis. So if someone else is willing to get up and challenge what I have to say or what you have to say on this particular topic, then I would just say, hey, what have you done? What are the hours that you've put in?
Where's your credentials?
Where is your credentials? Where is your authentication?
What do you do?
Are you authorized to talk to me about this?
Where do you work? Don't ask me what I do.
Exactly.
What do you do?
What do you do?
Work?
And that's
Who's your employer?
That's what our mentor says because he knows the work that he's put in. So when people come up to him saying, hey, what do you do? He's like, man, fuck that. Hey, what do you do?
Yeah, don't fucking profile me based on what I do.
So when it comes to being the cool kid, your mission as somebody in our shoes, like-minded people, your mission maybe is not to be cool right now. That's not the goal. The goal is to put in the work right now. The goal is to build a solid foundation right now so that when you have your business is built on a good, steady foundation that allows you to trend upwards. That's the point right now. That part may not look cool. It may not look cool to be a blue-collar American. However, they do the most work and are really the soul of this country, and they make decent money, which most people don't know because it's like not a glamorous thing to do, but they are the foundation and soul of this society. But is it cool? No, not necessarily. But without them, shit wouldn't fucking exist. So when you're thinking about where you are right now, you are that blue collar worker right now that's building the foundation of which America, of which the world will sit upon eventually. But you just have to keep doing the work, keep putting in the reps, keep getting your hands dirty until you built a Mona Lisa, until you've constructed the Burj Khalifa. And then at that point, people will no longer look at you like you're crazy. They'll look at you like you're an absolute genius.
Can I get tickets?
Exactly.
I know that guy. Could you send him my regards?
Exactly. A lot of people are going to be saying, hey, I know that guy. I know that girl. Eventually, if you put in the work, they'll be saying that about you very soon. They'll be like, wow, I used to blah, 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 knowing that they didn't really do shit, but, you know, give you some coffee that one time or say, hey, you know.
One time they reposted your content.
One time, yeah.
Back in the day.
Right. Always supported you. Gotcha. Okay.
The AM Club Podcast.
Signing out.
Mic check. The AM Club Podcast.